Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kingdom Assistant. I'm Zay, your host, and today's episode is going to be on the season of transition. And I'm going to be honest, I tried to record this 2 times already. So this is my third time trying to get it out, right? Because as I said in my previous video, I want every facet of this podcast to be led by God because I'm trying to do right by him. And so for a while, I was trying to figure out a topic to talk about because I'm like, I want to be able to post this as frequently as possible so people are interested, right? And so I'm just looking for a topic. And today, y'all, I woke up and I was not feeling it. I wasn't feeling the day. I wasn't feeling confident about my walk with him. I wasn't feeling confident about anything. And so, of course, I'm in a place where I'm just crying and I'm sad. And I'm like, Lord, I need something from you. I need a word. I need something to lift me up, to keep me going because this ain't it, basically. And so he led me to read Mark chapter 5, verse 36, which is about the story of Jairus. And I don't want to be all preachy, but I do want to be able to back up what I'm saying with scripture so that I can connect the idea of the Bible and the idea of relationship with God, right? Because I want to get everybody out of religion. So if you guys haven't heard the story of Jairus, he is a man whose 12-year-old daughter was on the brink of death, and he reached out to Jesus or wanted to find Jesus to get healing for his daughter. So Jairus ends up getting to Jesus. Jesus goes to Jairus's home, actually. Let's just put it that way. And when Jesus walks into the home, Jesus sees all the family and friends mourning. And one thing I love about that scripture is in the Amplified version, it says that there was understanding. So Jesus understood why they were mourning. So I'm going to stop there and just point that out because I need you guys to understand that in moments of your life where things feel crazy, and you feel like you're sad or whatever way that you're coping with it, Jesus understands. So I don't want you guys to ever think that Jesus doesn't get it. He's not hearing you. He doesn't care. He wants you to be this strong soldier. That's a lie, right? So in the scripture, it says that he understands why they're mourning and weeping because it looks like this girl is dead. And so Jesus is like, well, why are you guys crying? Why are y'all weeping? Like, she's not dead. She's just asleep. But they didn't have the faith to believe that. And so one of the family members or friends had said, well, why are you even trying? Like, why are you even going to Jesus to get healing when she's already dead? So they just didn't believe it at all. And so Jesus kicks them out. He's like, well, if you guys don't have the faith to believe, y'all got to go. So he kept 3 of his disciples, I believe, and Jairus and the child's mother, I'm sorry. And Jesus spoke a couple of words and that little girl got up and she walked, and it was literally a miracle. And so I knew that God led me to that scripture personally because I was mentioning to him that I was afraid. And I was afraid that I would be in this season of my life for a long period of time when I had already felt like I was in a season of transition previously for like a year or so. I was just not confident in my works. I wasn't confident in my faith. And I literally did not believe. I couldn't believe it. And so I was telling God, please help me to believe, right? Because I want to believe that I can go further than where I'm at, but I just couldn't, right? Because of the way that things looked. And so, y'all, I knew he wanted me to talk about transition, and I just don't have it in me, which is why I think the first 2 recordings, I couldn't. It felt like it was forced. And even though I knew it was something great to talk about, my spirit was not in it. And one thing that God will do is when he calls you to a thing, he will use what you're going through as a testimony. He will use what you have gone through as a stepping stone to put the word out there to encourage other people. And I remember back in 2018, someone had said, like, those are the best moments, right? To encourage people. If you can't encourage yourself, try to encourage somebody else. But it takes a lot of strength and faith to muster up something within you to pour and to give to other people. So I turned this camera back on, y'all. I got back on here and I said, Lord, you're going to have to lead me, right? And so what I want to talk about in the season of transition is how it can feel like it's a season of death. And so when we look at the story of Jairus, Jairus was in his own personal season of transition, and he was getting ready to prepare for a life without his daughter. And even though Jairus had reached out to Jesus to get this healing, there was a part of Jairus that was still unsure that it would happen. And I know for me personally, it's never a fact of if God can do it. It's more when. I struggle with the wait. We know that God's timing is different. And so for me, I'm like, Lord, I didn't put a year into this or 2 years or whatever. When am I finally going to see the physical manifestation of everything that you have told me, everything that you had promised to me, right? And so there have been many moments in this season where I felt like things looked dead, where I'm like, Lord, this literally physically looks impossible. It will literally take a miracle. And God is so good, because this was the perfect story for that. Because once that little girl got up and walked, it was literally a miracle. They were amazed. They were in awe, because it's like this little girl was dead. And now Jesus came in and spoke a couple words, and boom, here she is walking, right? And so in our seasons of transition, what God is trying to get through to us is that we are not in a season of death. We are in a season of a setup, right? God is setting us up to walk into this new season, this new place, this new territory, whatever it is. And I think sometimes in these seasons of transition, it can feel like we don't have everything we need to get there, right? Sometimes it feels like, well, Lord, I've exhausted all of me. I've exhausted every resource. I've exhausted everything that I have. I don't think I'll be able to walk into this, right? And so in the word, when Jesus says that this child is not dead, she is sleeping, that is God letting us know that in seasons of transition, there will be a lot of rest that is required, a lot of rest, because we know that rest is a temporary state of us trying to rejuvenate ourselves, right? Because when we wake up from a period of rest, we are better equipped to handle the day. Sometimes when we rest, we can get dreams, and God speaks to people in many different ways. So rest is necessary, but you have to be able to have the faith to look at this period of rest as a good thing. This resting period is not a period of death, right? And we also have to understand that before restoration or resurrection can take place, something has to die. There cannot be a rebirth without a period of death. This is not a physical death where the things that you have in your life right now will cease to exist, or it will wither away or fall away. This is a season where it is about to grow. You're about to come out of this season in something new. You're walking into something completely new and different than what you expected it to look like. So we know that in the word it says that having faith pleases God. And even me, somebody who is in this faith and who loves God, and I pray and I hear from God, my faith has dwindled down to literally nothing. And I am honest about that with God, because God also wants your honesty. So if you're in this place of transition and you feel like, Lord, I feel like I'm in a place of death, go ahead and tell him that. Allow him to encourage you, right? I also believe that in this season of transition, um, there are people and circumstances and things in your life that will have to fall away. So I look at it as when we are transitioning from one season, one natural season, right? So like winter into spring, spring into the summer. We can't take what we wore in the spring into the summer, right? So we're going to have to get rid of some of these things, these clothes that no longer fit us, these clothes that are no longer good enough for this new season, and we got to let it go. And that is what God needs us to do in this season of transition, is let go of some of the things that no longer benefit you. Let go some of the friendships and the connections that no longer suit you, because when God kicked those people out of the room, they didn't have the faith, right? And without the faith, God was like, I don't even want you to bear witness. There are people in your life in the season of transition, or circumstances, or whatever it is, that are not supposed to come with you to bear witness to this new thing, because it's no longer good enough. Whether it's mindset, or maybe it's a business that you once started that God doesn't really need you to take into this next season, because there's a new business or venture that he needs you to focus on. You cannot be afraid to let go of the old things so that the new things can come in either. You can't be afraid and look at this season of transition as a season of wilderness, because it is two different things. And speaking of wilderness, when we look at the Israelites, and the Israelites were in wilderness for years and years, but even while they were in the wilderness, God provided them with the manna. And that manna was supposed to be just enough to get them through this season. What you have right now, it is not manna. This is exactly what you need to move on into the next season. This is everything that you have already. So you got to understand that in this season of transition, there are things that God has already removed, right? And that is why sometimes it feels like death, because there are things God has already removed, but there will also be things that you have to step up and take away so that God can replenish and give you something more, give you something better. This season of transition will require you to rest so that you have the instruction, so that you know exactly what it is that you need to walk into the next season. But you cannot be afraid, and you must believe. You must believe that what you see right now is not the end game. It is not the end of everything, right? This is the beginning. And when you look at a rebirth, a thing must die. And this is a spiritual death. It has to be a spiritual death, because the calling that is on your life, the next season of your life, will be for you to walk out into your purpose, into your full purpose. We know that there is life and death in what you speak, right? And so if you are speaking curses over your situation, if you're speaking curses over your promises or your blessings, and having people around you that are also speaking death, you will see death. And so what I got from all of this, just in my prayer time with God and reading about Jairus, is that I can no longer be afraid. So for me, in this season of transition, I know that God is needing me to let go of the spirit of fear, the fear that I'll always be here, the fear that I am not good enough, the fear that what I'm doing is not good enough. There's just a lot. And I also think that in seasons of transition, sometimes it feels like the moment that you take a couple of strides, you get knocked down, right? Because that's how I felt too. Is like the finish line just keeps moving further and further away from me every time I start to catch my footing and I feel like I can do it, right? And sometimes it feels like there's attacks, right? Sometimes it feels like there are attacks on my life, whether it be in my health, whether it be in circumstances in my life where now there's a whole bunch of inconveniences. And I'll admit that that's very discouraging for me. And it happens every single time I'm trying to embark on a new endeavor, or I'm ready to be consistent and disciplined. Here comes the enemy. And so one thing that I want to say, I'm sure you guys have heard, is that right before breakthrough, the enemy will try his hardest to take you out every single time, because in every season of transition, it is inevitable that breakthrough will come every single time. So in seasons of transition, the enemy will fight you the most. He's going to fight you the most. He's going to throw things at you the most. And this is the time of your life where you need to have the faith to believe that, look, this is not going to prosper. Whatever is happening right now is trying to take me off of where I'm supposed to be. And I have to get through that. I have to push through that, right? And so just like Jesus told those people that they got to go, you got to tell the enemy to go too. You got to tell that fear to go. You got to tell whatever issues you're experiencing to go, because we understand that it is from the enemy. Because what are the odds that the moment you are trying to walk into something new and you're getting your mind right and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, here comes an inconvenience. Here comes something that stops you from focusing on the right things. It is not a coincidence. So I want to say that although this season of transition looks like a season of wilderness, or it looks like a season of death, this is actually a posture for breakthrough. This is actually things being set up for a rebirth or resurrection or a restoration of things in your life. This is the season where you're about to transition into finally seeing the things that you have been petitioning God for and asking God to see. But one other thing that I want to say is, in a season of transition, you must steward what you have properly. Because in the word, it says that to whom much is given, much is required, right? And we also know that when God gives us a little bit, we have to make sure that with the little that we have, we're taking care of it so God can give us more. So I believe that in order to get through this season of transition, number one, you have to let go of fear. Number two, you have to no longer see this as a season of death, but a season of rebirth, and understanding that without a death, you cannot have anything new. You can't bring something back to life without it dying first. This is not a physical death. This is not a death that will require you to have to let go of the things that you love. This is a spiritual death. A spiritual death meaning getting rid of all the ideas and the thoughts and the feelings that you have that completely go against what God says that you have. This will be a season of rest, right? This is a season of walking into breakthrough, but needing to let go of the things that are keeping you back from the breakthrough, or keeping you from seeing that this is goodness, that this is from God Himself. So this is also for me, right? Because I need to get to a place where I can no longer walk in fear, but believe that what I'm seeing right now is not dead. It's in a period of rest, because once it's time to wake up, it's about to be brand new. It's about to be something no one has ever seen before, and everyone's about to see the glory in it. And people are going to know that only God has done this for you. So I hope that this lets people know that you're not alone in these seasons of transition. You're not alone in feeling like everything is falling apart, when really you're about to be catapulted, right? And sometimes we have to take a step back, right? When you look at a slingshot, you have to pull it back first before letting it go to move forward. And so, yeah, you may be stepping back. It may feel like you are taking steps in the wrong direction, but this is actually a setup, right? So, your season right now is a transition. You are in rest for breakthrough, and you are not in the wilderness. And I just pray that this encourages somebody. You're not alone. God understands why you feel the way that you feel, but He also needs you to understand that you need to have the faith and you only need to believe in Him. Don't listen to the people around you that are speaking out against what you feel. That's another thing, too. Sometimes in this season, you may feel something, right? You may feel like this is it, but nothing around you looks like that. So you start to doubt what you feel, but what you feel is right. Like, this is something new, but you need the faith and the belief in God Himself. No, don't just believe in your works. You have to believe in God, right? Because everything that you do, God is giving you the strength to do that. So I just pray this encourages somebody. That's really what I want to do, is show people personally that I struggle, even though my faith um, is strong, right? I believe in God. I can hear from God, but I struggle too. So I pray that you guys that this helped, and I will see you guys in my next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can follow me on Instagram on my personal page, ZaeHudson. The podcast page is at The Kingdom Assistant, and TikTok as well at The Kingdom Assistant. So again, guys, I just hope that you stay in with me. I'm going to get it together, y'all. I'm doing all this off the fly, asking God to lead me. So I hope that it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I thank you guys again. I'll see you in my next episode. Bye.